Hello, beautiful day today to pick on some low IQ individuals. Probably going to be my last video on computing forever for a while since, I can't afford to lose that many brain cells. Got him. So basically he's responding to Richard Dawkins because he wasn't very happy with what he said on Twitter. Let's have a look.
So today we're going to be responding to these tweets by Richard Dawkins posted on the 21st of September. He writes, "You can argue over whether masks, hand washing, banning groups, etc. are effective. What you cannot argue is that you are personally entitled to take the risk as a matter of individual liberty. You risk other lives as well as your own. It's just elementary epidemiology." And the second tweet, "You can argue, wrongly, that the risk to others is small, just as you can argue, wrongly, that the risk to others from drunk driving is small. What you cannot argue, as many right-wing idiots in effect do, is that personal liberty is the only consideration that matters."
I agree with what Dr. Richard Dawkins said. If this were any other topic, I would say he was a little aggressive about it, but since this is about the current pandemic, I share his anger. It is completely invalid to say you are taking the risk only yourself because your actions here can have great impacts on the lives of others, maybe even risk their lives. You may be thinking in your head, yeah, I think the risk is worth it, but guess what? You can't be the only one to judge that because you are costing others. That's like saying, setting off my fireworks in the middle of a busy road under a bunch of cables is worth it because I think the benefits outweigh the costs. But you'd be an asshole to think that because you can't be the only one to judge what that cost is to others, especially since your fireworks could cause a hazard and endanger the lives of other people. Same logic applies here. That's why it always triggered me when I see young people going to parties not wearing masks and such because the virus wouldn't be too harmful to them. Well, you could spread it to others who are at greater risk. Be responsible and wear your mask, wash your hands, and social distance. There's no real cost to following these rules. It's not like we're saying you can't go outside at all.
Okay, Richard, so there are politicians, medical spokespeople, and media talking heads making the claim that based on their evidence, COVID is so dangerous that it justifies the curtailment of individual liberties. There is a cost-benefit analysis to be done here, clearly, because there are significant negative repercussions and consequences to individual physical and mental health, to the economy, and to society in general from the COVID restrictions themselves.
Of course, there's a cost to literally every law or rule put into place, and for each of these, the benefits have to justify the costs. So I guess that's where the disagreement comes in. See, while Richard Dawkins and I are arguing that the standards of washing hands and social distancing is worth it to avoid any more casualties, you seem to think that taking small precautions like this is just too much. I mean, yeah, who cares if the grandpa down the street contracts the virus and is hospitalized for 2 weeks? I don't want to wear a mask.
There are negative long-term side effects from masks, social distancing, prolonged isolation, delayed cancer treatments, destroyed businesses, job losses, people falling into poverty, etc. Is the virus so deadly that it justifies the consequences of these mitigation measures? Are these measures sustainable long-term? We should be able to ask these questions.
Okay, you can definitely make an argument for certain COVID restrictions. For example, shutting down the entire economy may no longer be worth it anymore. Before, when we knew nothing about this virus, it was because we want to stop the virus that we knew nothing about from spreading throughout the entire population of the country. Now, since the virus is basically everywhere and we have some emergency treatments, I would say locking down the country may not be the best idea anymore. But the thing is, little Dave, Richard Dawkins only promoted 3 small things in that tweet: wearing a mask, washing your hands, and social distancing. What kind of cost is there when you're just following these 3 simple guidelines? Okay, let's go over them one by one. Wearing a mask, no real risk except for people who have pre-existing breathing problems, or a phobia of suffocation, or something along those lines. If there is a real cost to yourself, such as not being able to breathe, then I can understand not wearing a mask. But if you think that breathing in your own carbon dioxide in a mask is somehow compromising to your immune system, then think again, because that is simply against our understanding of physiology. What other risk is there? Pretty much nothing if you don't have a condition, which the vast majority of people don't. I mean, wearing a mask isn't even a new thing. It is a little bit of a fashion thing in certain East Asian countries. Oh, and also surgeons wear them all the time. I guess these doctors must not know their own field well enough since they're compromising their immune system. That, or you don't understand science whatsoever. I'm inclined to go with the latter. Second, washing your hands. I don't see a real cost to that. I mean, unless soap irritates your skin, I guess. Not gonna apply to most people. You should be washing your hands with soap anyway, even before the pandemic happened. Third, social distancing. Now, this is more so the banning of big groups. This includes things like parties, concerts, conferences, conventions, lecture halls, etc. And for these, we'll have to judge on a case-by-case basis. There's no doubt that certain businesses are hurt because of this, but many of them are finding ways to host events even without large gatherings, such as holding virtual events or limiting the size of the crowd. That's pretty much what I see wherever I go. Movie theaters are still running but with limited capacity, airplanes are still flying but suspending middle seats and enforcing mask wearing. It's not nearly as bad as it was when we first shut down the economy. But anyway, Richard Dawkins isn't even talking about businesses, but more so gatherings such as parties or social events. And that I do agree with. Don't go partying, there's not much benefit except having fun, I guess. Keep your group to like 6 people or something. And to round everything off, be mindful that this isn't going to last forever. We literally just have to keep this up for a year and that's it. Once a vaccine is distributed, we can then go back to our regular lives. Don't go party for 1 year. We're already 8 months in, just endure it for another couple of months.
Given the catastrophic impact that all of the COVID restrictions and/or lockdown measures will have on individuals and society, there is an obligation for all of us to question the veracity of the data that is being used to justify them.
Your response to Richard Dawkins is getting a little bit off topic. He doesn't mention anywhere in that tweet about shutting down the economy. He's literally just telling you to wash your hands and stand a bit further away from each other. I mean, Dave, you should already be used to people standing away from you even before the pandemic started. You should be an expert.
If the measures are found to be disproportionate to the level of the threat, then we should not proceed with these measures any longer.
You do realize that we have actual experts that evaluate data, right? All the top biologists in the world have gathered together and given us these simple recommendations to follow. How can you even claim that this sort of risk-benefit evaluation hasn't been done? If we have the top scientists from around the world, the CDC and the WHO, all recommending things like mask wearing, hand washing, and social distancing, why is it that you can't believe that they know what they're talking about? Or is it that you just want to block out everything that goes against your opinion? Sounds about right.
When you say the following in your tweet, what you cannot argue is that you are personally entitled to take the risk as a matter of individual liberty. You risk other lives as well as your own. Firstly, I can argue whatever I want. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can, but Dawkins isn't saying you can't. He's saying you're wrong if you do, which you are.
But basically, what you're suggesting, Richard, is a recipe for people never being able to leave their homes because they might get someone somewhere killed unintentionally.
No, he's not saying you can't leave your home. Where in the tweet did he say that? Show me. Or perhaps you're just strawmanning. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was a common routine you followed. Carry on.
It's clear from the fatality data that COVID is no more deadly, perhaps even less deadly, than the flu.
The classic compare the coronavirus with the flu, as if the flu isn't bad or something. You'll have to first identify which flu virus you're referring to, then we'll talk. But the thing is, you can't directly compare these two, like I said in many videos, because they behave in many different ways and are different in their circumstances. One has a treatment, the other doesn't. One has a vaccine, the other doesn't. Not to mention that the death rate for different age groups is significantly different. How do you go about comparing these two? The thing is, we don't take all these social distancing precautions against the flu because guess what? It has a vaccine. Some people may choose not to take the vaccine, which is why it can still infect and kill people. But for COVID, we don't have a choice. We can't take a vaccine even if we wanted to. So that's why I say we can't truly get back to our normal lives until a vaccine is available to everyone. So overall, comparing the coronavirus to the flu is incredibly misleading. COVID-19 should be judged based on itself and not in comparison to another disease.
This virus is clearly not Ebola. People are not dropping dead on the streets of London, for example.
If COVID was as deadly as Ebola, it would have a much more difficult time spreading throughout the population because it would kill anyone that got it and therefore would have a lower chance of spreading. It's because the death rates are lower that makes this virus more deadly. What part of that do you not understand? The biggest power COVID has is its ability to spread easily between human beings. If you take that away, we can decrease the number of deaths significantly. I'd actually rather COVID be more deadly because not only would it spread less, it would scare people like you who have no understanding of science into wearing a goddamn mask.
The vast majority of people don't know anyone who has it, let alone anybody who's died from it.
Yeah, maybe where you live in Ireland, the COVID death numbers are low, but you cannot use this experience to speak for everyone else. Here in the United States, there are over 200,000 deaths. I personally know people who got COVID. How could you possibly use that as an excuse? Oh, look, I don't know anyone who has gotten COVID, therefore we shouldn't social distance. Do you even play back your videos and listen to them before you upload?
There is nothing out of the ordinary when looking at monthly death numbers for 2020 when compared to previous years. In fact, here in Ireland, a country with significant COVID restrictions, more people died in the first 5 months of 2018 than in 2020. This is an overblown hoax of the highest order.
Absolutely not. I don't know what you're showing on screen or where that data came from, but regardless, it seems to be showing deaths from all sources. All sources! Do you not see why that is wrong? There are tons of factors you cannot control, and each period of time is going to be different. Not to mention complete random chance, since numbers there aren't too significantly different. It's funny because I actually work as a data manager for a COVID trial right now, and not even people who don't understand data would make such a stupid claim. There's so much to consider and so much to control and filter. You can't just look at a puny little table like that and make the claim that COVID is not dangerous. And also, April has more deaths. What about that month? Clearly, you can't just attribute any of this data as being a good representation of COVID. That's just absurd. Okay, that's enough from computing forever. So yeah, thank you to Fireshard, Liam, Alan Morton, and JN for supporting this channel. I'll see you next week.